You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Successful Screenwriter Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything screenwriting. Here we interview successful screenwriters and filmmakers to find out just what it takes to make it in the industry. Just a heads up, this episode is brought to you by my book, The Guide for Every Screenwriter, which has been listed as one of the best screenwriting books of all time by the Book Authority. If you're looking for something that reveals the secrets of screenwriting in an easy to understand and engaging way, then this is the book for you. You can find The Guide for Every Screenwriter at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com/books. Now, on to the show. Welcome to the podcast. We have on author Maddy Osman. She is also an expert at branding and content creation. Maddy, I wanted to say thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me here.
So I wanted to get you on the show because as a screenwriter, it is really important to try and separate yourself from the pack to really stand out. And one of the ways we do that is through branding and then further using content creation, this is your wheelhouse. Before we really get into it, though, I'd like to get a little bit of your origin story and what brought you into doing all this.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to try to tell it in a way that's useful for our topic here. So I started my, professional journey in my youth. I really liked designing websites. And then through different jobs, I decided that I actually liked making the content for the websites more than I liked making the websites. And so I kind of went from doing like a lot of different marketing related things. I did social media, I did the websites, and then I did like blogging and content creation, to really narrowing in on just that content creation aspect, and then further narrowing that down into writing specifically for B2B technology companies, which is what I do today. Nice. And I think the lesson here, for anybody listening to this podcast, is when it comes to branding, it's a lot easier to do when we're talking about like a very specific service for a very specific audience. And right. So that if you take one thing away, hopefully that's it.
Yeah. So for me, when I first started screenwriting, branding wasn't even really a thing. It was still just sort of out there in the ethos. Screenwriters didn't have names. We weren't really known. Directors were always kind of the big deal. And then writers started to really try and quote, brand themselves. So when I started coming up the ranks, I started realizing I have a little bit of a gift, I have the ability to really take somebody's script and fix it so that it can be marketable, or fix the story so that it's actually resonates with an audience's emotional journey. So what are some tools or tricks, or what kind of guide can you recommend for a writer to really start figuring out their own brand?
Sure. I think that it certainly helps to be a student of your industry and the people who are doing well and the people who are occupying the niche that you want to be in. So like you kind of just described, like, this is my niche. I'm like a fixer, I can help people suss out like the best version of the story. And I think you have to do a little bit of self-reflection. Like, what are the things that, first of all, you enjoy doing?
Yeah.
What are the things that you're good at doing? And hopefully what is the intersection of those two things, so that, you're not doing something that you really hate, even though you're good at it.
Do you think there's ever an issue where somebody's trying to brand themselves as what they want to be instead of who they are?
Totally. I mean, I think even in like my journey, there have been times where it's like I've put on a certain hat, but maybe I didn't fully feel it. And I think to some extent, like, there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome and being like, am I good at this? Right. You're just testing it out. You're just trying to figure out what makes the most sense for you. And so I think that's natural. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. It's the path that gets you to what you want. And you're going to take some wrong turns here and there. I know I did. Like, just to give some examples, like when I first started writing and maybe not even focusing on that with some of these other services I offered, it's like, I would write for everyone, like carpet cleaning services, pet insurance, all these things that I ultimately don't know that much about, but I wanted the work and I wanted to keep growing and keep trying new things. And I did learn a lot by doing those things. I learned how to research. I learned how to position things, for different audiences that maybe I didn't understand that well prior to doing it. And so it's like, it's not that it had no impact on me. And even though I don't do it now, so there's value to doing that, I think.
What I've noticed with writers who are branding themselves or anybody in general is that there needs to be a level of authenticity of who you are, even if it is like, this is who I want to be, but you still have to be who you are. One thing I've found with some script doctors or businesses out there who promise you the world, they're very salesman-y, to make up a word. And it just feels like they're shilling snake oil. And what is your take on that?
Sure. So who was it? Robert Cialdini, who said that people only buy from those they know, like, and trust. So that's important for whatever you're selling. You have to create a relationship. You have to give them a reason why they should trust you over some random person doing the same thing down the street. And I think authenticity is really important. I mean, I think my background is in sales, so it's interesting to find that balance between being like pushy, but like obviously also like getting the sale.
Yeah.
And I've always taken the stance that like I have to believe in like the product that I'm selling, even if it's my work or whatever. I have to believe it, and I have to believe that it's a good fit for that person. So I think you can be authentic in selling if you believe in your product and you believe that the person you're talking to could benefit from it. And I think if that's true, you won't come across slimy or sleazy or whatever.
No, that's really great advice. Because it's kind of funny. It's, as a screenwriter, you're not selling widgets. And some screenwriters believe that they're trying to sell a screenplay, but that's not what they're selling. They're selling themselves, right? You are the product. This is what I can do. If you're only trying to sell one screenplay and that's all you've ever written, that screenplay's not going to sell. You need to be able to sell who you are and what you can do, what you can provide.
Your potential.
I love this. So, one thing I always found really useful when I was figuring out who I was and what I wanted to do, and to kind of help me focus, is I came up with a mission statement. And my mission statement is relatively simple. It's help other writers find success. That's it. And that could be finding success in their own writing and becoming better. It could be finding success, getting representation, whatever it is. I mean, that's for me. I really feel like that's why I'm here. Is that something that you would recommend writers should kind of come up with their own mission statement when they're really developing their own brand?
Yeah. And I think the answer is yes. And I think that it's something that it takes time to figure out what that is. Same thing with like figuring out your niche and your approach and all that stuff. But it's something that I thought about a lot last year, in the thick of things with the pandemic and the existential crisis of what tomorrow looks like.
Well, it's true.
Why am I doing this? What are we here for?
Yeah.
And I think I can't remember like verbatim what it was, but it was something to the effect of like, like serving our customers, but also serving the ultimate end reader of our content, because we're writing it for them. And so it should help them to answer whatever questions they have that sparked the creation of this piece of content. So it's something like that. It's something like having purpose behind like why do I go to work every day? Why do I bother? And the other piece of it for me is to serve like charitable causes that matter to me by donating a portion of our sales. So it's like, obviously like helping the customers, helping the end reader, but also like, what does this business serve in this world? And I think it's okay if for you, it's just like, I just want to be able to like make enough money to be happy. That's a purpose,
Yeah. I know some writers are like, I've gotten scripts from some writers before that said, my goal was to make you laugh 3 times.
Okay.
And
I like
this is a
that.
great goal. And I read the script and I said, well, we have some work to do. I only got a couple of shovels.
Got like one and a half of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to have goals, but I also think
Yeah.
really what I'm hearing from you is a big part of this is to know thyself, right? Is to really know who you are and to have your motivations be sound and pure. And
Yeah.
also sounds like providing uh, something that's helpful for others is
Mhm.
also really important to getting that know, like, and trust aspect from people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like my industry, I think, is characterized by people pushing out what they call like copycat content. They're just trying to rank in relevant search.
Okay.
And so, to some extent, it's like looking through the data, kind of reconstructing things, but you also have to think about like, what are you adding? I think in any type of writing that's unique,
Yeah.
that's different. Like,
Yeah.
why are you bothering?
Part of the branding thing is everyone is always said, oh, you got to be on all the different social media sites. And I've done Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I started at TikTok. I find it exceptionally exhausting.
Yeah.
It does feel like work. I do not enjoy it. So I've started kind of withering down my social media approach, and I'm sure this is probably gonna backfire, but it's just I would rather have just like two different social media channels that I use, like Twitter and Facebook, and I might play around with TikTok, but I'm not going on it because I feel like I have enough bandwidth to be able to do that. What are
Right.
your suggestions?
My suggestion is to not get in over your head.
Yeah.
Pick one or two channels, but pick them based on where your audience is. So like Twitter is also one of my channels. It's because a lot of people in like the SEO world, a lot of writers, a lot of marketers, a lot of content managers who are ultimately like the people who would hire me, that's where they hang out.
Yeah.
LinkedIn too, to some extent, maybe even it's slightly different audiences, but both of those places, people are looking for work. They're branding their professional self. They're showing up as whatever professional they are and representing themselves there. So yeah, my suggestion is to pick one, maybe max two. Eventually you might consider hiring somebody to help you. You can create like a style guide for them to follow. You can like what I have done in the past is like give them like themes, so like Monday is, share like a client one day, Tuesday is like, here's a testimonial, Wednesday is like an interesting industry article in my commentary, something like that, just to make it really easy, even for you, to have like a blueprint. So that's my opinion. I don't think that you have to do all of them. And I think ultimately it's just like, where are my clients hanging out?
Yeah. Pick one or two and then go from there.
Yep. You don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to be everything to everyone. Don't try, like,
That's
even
good to know.
Enterprise brands can't do that,
I love the style guide. I hadn't even considered that, to kind of come up with a pseudo template of what to do when. I think that would take a little bit of the pressure off as well. It's a really good point. Here I am. I'm taking notes. So, well, that really brings us to content creation. So before I had a podcast, content creation was this mythological beast I could not slay. I couldn't figure out, okay, I mean, I don't want to write a blog every day. It's exceptionally boring, and you don't want to recycle stuff. So once I got a podcast, I started, I have content now. I can recycle any of this podcast material. I can transcribe it and make it into a blog post. So this has been an exceptional boon for me. What else kind of content creation do you recommend for people out there?
Sure. Yeah. In terms of like things like frequency, we recently did a little bit of a deep dive into the data to try to figure out like what is the ideal frequency. And of course, there's so many different factors, but I don't think that you have to, if you want to go the blogging route and you want that to be successful, I don't think you really have to do more than like 2 to 4 times a month, depending on your capacity, depending on the topic.
Oh, that's really helpful. Okay.
I mean, really what it is you just want Google to see if SEO is a goal of yours to be ranking in relevant search. You just want Google to see that you're not like abandoning your blog, that it's consistently updated.
Okay.
And that's enough. You struck on another good thing, which is repurposing content. I do it a lot too. Just finding ways to reuse like the good ideas you've already had, but translating them to different mediums, audio, video, blog, snippets for social media, things like that. Just keep repurposing it because there's a good chance that people won't see it, the first time you post it anyway. And even if they did, it's going to be in a different medium. And, going back to like elementary school, like everybody learns in different ways. And so having the audio, having video, having written text, the more mediums that you can feasibly do with, again, without it getting into that social media, like too many networks, too many
exhaustion.
Mediums, but that's a good thing because people learn in different ways. Stuff like video too, like if we're talking about blog content, it keeps you on the page longer, even if it's not your video, but you find a related video to embed.
Interesting.
That's a good engagement metric.
Video. Oh, that's really good to know. What I wanted to ask you is, I have been posting on Facebook regularly, and I know this is something other writers struggle with. Facebook significantly limits my reach. So they wanted me to boost a post. And so if I would boost a post, it would get more engagement.
Right.
But it would cost me a significant amount of cash to reach my audience who's already interested in the show. And that was driving me crazy. So what I started doing was Twitter. And I just blasted out on Twitter and anybody can find it. What do you recommend about somehow trying to pay for boosts or anything like that?
Well, my first thought is to never build your house on rented land, something that comes up, especially back when I used to do social media all the time. And I think Twitter is a good example of that because now we have like Elon Musk maybe buying it and like making his own rules and, like the wild, wild west of whatever the future of that platform is. And so really what would be better would be to spend your time gathering people's email addresses so that you can have those one-to-one conversations without having to pay to reach your own audience that you already got, right?
Right.
Facebook has been kind of a dead zone for a while for anybody doing organic marketing. Paid, it's still the best platform for that because it's the most sophisticated in terms of like ad targeting. It's the biggest pool of daily active users. I mean, maybe TikTok's more now, but again, like it has the longevity, it has like years of building up that platform. And so I think it's still a solid bet when it comes to paid. I really have not messed around with paid advertising too much personally outside of like client projects where I needed to weigh in on it, but usually I'm not the one who manages it. I mean, I just kind of resent having to pay for my own audience. And so
I agree.
You can get much better organic reach on LinkedIn. That's now the best platform for that.
Really? Oh, I had no idea. That's awesome.
There are ways to game that a little bit. Like they don't like it when you post like a link in your status update or whatever, like better to have it in a comment that will increase your reach. Tagging people, starting a conversation helps get it in other people's timelines. So there are a couple of things that you could do to increase that, but LinkedIn as of right now is one of the better as far as like a professional network,
right?
Way better than Facebook.
So tell me about this book you have coming out.
Sure. So my new book, my only book so far, we'll see if I ever do another one, is Writing for Humans and Robots, The New Rules of Content Style. And we discovered that we have similar inspirations for our books, but took them a different direction.
It's awesome.
The elements of style is kind of an inspiration of mine and yours. And I wanted to do a modern take on that since it was written in 1918, at least the first edition was. And, all of the rules really still hold true. But what they didn't account for is this global internet audience that a lot of us are writing for now.
Yeah. I love the fact that you used that book as inspiration, and because It is, but it's so clean. It's so easy to read and to understand. It's not
Yeah.
like a boring college textbook.
Right. And it's short too, which
It's
is nice.
short. Yeah, that's exactly why I wanted to use it for the guide for every screenwriter, is because I wanted something easily accessible. And that's what the elements of style is. Yeah, exactly. So the fact that you've done that, I'm so excited. I can't wait to read it when it comes out. I will definitely include a link in the show notes. Hey, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter by using my handle @ScreenwriterPod. And if you liked the show, please support it by subscribing and sharing the episode on your social media.